So, with Zenless Zone Zero's release right around the corner, in this video, I want to take a look at the game from a Honkai Impact veteran's perspective. I frequently see people calling it a Honkai clone and things like that, but is it really true? Last month, I was finally able to thoroughly play the beta and check out for myself what it's really like. The beginning of the story reminded me of Honkai right away. You get thrown right into a mission with no explanation about the characters and world. Because of this, it took me quite a few hours to properly immerse myself in the world. But thankfully, things aren't as complex as in Honkai Impact or Star Rail, so it was much easier to get a grasp of the story concept. It is written fast-paced and fun. I especially liked the impressively animated cutscenes. The setting of the game reminds me of games like Persona or Digimon Cyber Sleuth. Like the whole thing of teens living undercover in a Japanese-looking city, but secretly fight against monsters in a parallel world that is interconnected with the real one. And the whole gameplay loop of helping and doing commissions for people. The game has a certain arcade feel to it, like older Bandai Namco anime titles. It is less of an RPG than Genshin or Star Rail though, meaning you don't really play as yourself. Regardless which gender sibling you choose here, they both work together, and they both play active parts in the story, so the decision doesn't change much. You also don't name any of them as they already have their own canon names and fixed personalities. So this aspect is kinda similar to Honkai Impact too. The game design itself is heavily inspired by Star Rail. The W engines, which you can equip onto characters, are one-to-one working like light cones. Also, the shops, the gacha system, relic equipments with randomized stats, the battle pass, and gacha rates are all almost one-to-one, taken from Star Rail, with some small improvements. For example, I noticed that the light cone banner base rate here is increased to a flat 1%. Also, the two different shop currencies you get for pulling in Genshin and Star Rail are combined into one here. Okay, let's get to the juicy stuff, the action gameplay. As a longtime Honkai player, my impression of ZZZ's gameplay was different enough to not feel like a Honkai clone, but still familiar enough that my experience with Honkai helped me getting into the fighting system pretty fast. Perfect evade timing works pretty much the same as in Honkai, and it even has a counter mechanic that looks similar, but works in a lot more satisfying way than the counters we got in Honkai Part 2. But aside from that, the battle mechanics are very different. Instead of only having QTEs, this game gives you multiple ways of chaining character switches into your gameplay. For example, when you get hit, you can tap one of your off characters to switch them in and go for a quick counter attack. Or landing a heavy hit on an exhausted enemy will always automatically trigger a chain attack, where you can QTE attack over and over through all your characters until the enemies recover or die. In the beta, this triggered very frequently, and I can see that they want you to cycle through your characters during battles, but me being used to doing rotations in Honkai Impact or Genshin, this mechanic felt more like it messes up my attempted rotations, and the game wants me to go with its flow instead. Maybe it is something I just need to get used to, or something they will adjust more for release, but so far, I would prefer more active control and triggers for this. Like elves in Honkai Impact, ZZZ has little support helpers, called Bangboos, which are on the field, heal, support, attack, and they can even be part of chain QTEs. But there is no button to actively use them. It is mostly passively doing its thing in the background, and the only way to use it semi-actively is by including it in chains. This is an interesting approach, and I'm curious in what kind of ways they will be able to make these little guys unique. Another notable thing is that while there was a Bangboo banner in the beta, there was no way to spend the equivalent of Primo Gems or Jades on the gacha here. Meanwhile, there were plenty of alternative ways to get pulls for it, like through quests, level up rewards, and other sources. If Bangboo banners on launch are still like this would be very unique, because this would be the first time you wouldn't be able to wail on a Hoyo game banner. If you expect world exploration, like in Genshin or Star Rail, then this is not really a thing here. The overworld in the real-life inspired world is more like a hub, where you talk to characters and access different game modes. But don't worry, the game still features many puzzles in form of a tile-based grid gameplay. I was really surprised in how many creative and unique ways they used this TV gameplay. I really enjoyed this, and it gives us a welcome alternative from the constant, intense fighting action. Speaking of alternatives, the game also features a bunch of mini-games with achievements if you like that kind of stuff. There was even a multiplayer option for some. I also really like the way you spend your stamina and farm for materials in this game. Instead of having to grind a preset stage over and over, here you can mix and match enemies and drops to create your own custom farming stage. For example, you just got a new character that you want to build? Just put an enemy in there that drops the required level up material, an enemy that drops the ascension material, 2 enemies that drop talent, skill upgrade materials, etc. You can put up to 5 enemies and spend up to 100 stamina with just one single run like this. So in total, you only need 2 to 3 runs if you want to spend all your stamina for a day. Very efficient. Also, I noticed that in the beta, weekly boss stages had a multiplayer option. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to test this, but being able to farm with friends would be amazing. Overall, my impression was pretty positive. At first, I was skeptical about the gameplay feeling too much like Honkai, or the game feeling grindy by focusing this heavily on battles, but in total, I've spent a good 70 hours on the beta, and it never felt old to me. Unlocking and trying out new characters, having many shorter story missions instead of very few very long ones, and a variety of game modes to explore, provided enough diverse entertainment to keep me invested. I'm really looking forward to play this on the official launch. They even just announced that we will get a whole 100 free pulls, plus 80 Bangboos banner pulls on launch, which is a lot. By the way, I would be interested in making some content for Zenless on this channel, but since I usually focus on exploration and completion content and the game having no chests, achievements, or anything like that, I'm not too sure yet. In any case, you don't need to worry. Honkai Impact is definitely going to stay my main priority. So, what do you think? Are any of you looking forward to playing the game? Or have any of you maybe gotten the chance to play one of the betas too? What was your experience like? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. With that said, until next time, Lucy out.